Now investigators obtained shows 25-year-old Brian Altamirano Solano walking hand-in-hand with Erica Covington and Ariana Taylor, both 20 minutes before the women are accused of killing him.
This episode contains mature themes, including topics of obsession, betrayal, and violent acts, which some viewers may find distressing. Viewers' discretion is strongly advised. Las Vegas, the city where fortunes are made and lost in the blink of an eye. A place where the line between dreams and nightmares is dangerously thin. But tonight, this isn't a story about jackpots or high-stakes poker. No, this is about a man who walked into a hotel room with two women, expecting one thing, and never walked out again. A man whose last moments were captured by surveillance cameras, smiling, unsuspecting, hand in hand with the very women who would take his life. And the question that still haunts everyone who hears this story: why? Why did they kill him when they already had what they wanted? Why did a 25-year-old man seeking safety in America meet such a violent end in a luxury hotel room? And why, even after their conviction, do we still not know which one of them pulled the trigger? This is the real story of Brian Altamirano Solano. And by the time you hear the full truth, you may never look at Las Vegas the same way again. Stay with me. Welcome to Crime of Passion. I thank you, my viewers, most especially my subscribers, for your support as we keep improving and bringing daily told and untold true crime of passion stories updates. Please don't forget to subscribe to this channel. The night was alive in a way only Las Vegas could be. Bright, loud, and restless. Neon signs flickered across the strip, casting shifting colors on the pavement below as laughter and the clinking of drinks filled the air. Strangers became fast friends. Money changed hands faster than cards could be dealt. And for a man like Brian Altamirano Solano, the city could have felt like the start of something new. Instead, it would be the end of everything. Brian walked through the sprawling marbled hallways of Caesar's palace, flanked on either side by two young women. Erica Covington on his right, Ariana Taylor on his left. His posture was relaxed, his steps steady, completely unaware that these were the last strides he'd ever take. Security footage shows him walking hand in hand with them, the three of them appearing comfortable, almost intimate, as if they'd known each other for years, as if there was an unspoken promise between them. But there wasn't. There never had been. Minutes earlier, these women were nothing more than faces in the crowd. Just two people he had met by chance in a city designed to make people believe in luck. Brian had no idea that the very hands holding his now would soon be rummaging through his pockets, stripping him of his belongings, leaving him lifeless on the floor of a hotel room where no one would find him for hours. He was 25, too young to have survived so much in life, only to meet his fate in a place where people came to celebrate. A young man from Nicaragua, he had made the journey to the United States seeking safety, stability, a better life than the one he left behind. He wasn't a criminal. He wasn't some reckless thrill seeker gambling away his future. He was just trying to survive in a country that promised so much. But Las Vegas, like life, is full of illusions. Maybe he believed he was in control of this night. Maybe he thought these women were simply companions, a fleeting moment of excitement in a city built on excess. Maybe, for just a moment, he let his guard down, thinking the worst thing that could happen was waking up the next morning with less money in his wallet. He never got that morning. Because in exactly 15 minutes, Brian Altamirano Solano would be dead. The time was 2:35 a.m. The moment the door to room 2432 swung shut, sealing the fate of a man who still believed he was in control of the night. Inside, the air was thick with the kind of tension that lingers when strangers find themselves in a room together. Expectations unspoken, but understood. The soft hum of the hotel's air conditioning filled the silence between them. The bed was neatly made, the hotel's crisp white linens untouched, at least for now. Security footage offers no glimpse of what happened next. No sound escapes the walls of that room. But what we do know is this. At 2:50 a.m., the same hallway camera that recorded the trio entering now catches something very different. The door to room 2432 bursts open. Erica Covington and Ariana Taylor come flying out. No hesitation, no looking back. They are running, fast. One of them, likely Erica, clutches a bag that wasn't hers when she arrived. Ariana, moving just as quickly, loses her grip on something. A small dark object clatters to the floor behind her. Her phone. They don't stop to pick it up. They don't scream. They don't panic. They just run. No one else in the hallway pays them any mind. After all, this is Vegas. People come and go at all hours, some more frantic than others. Two young women giggling, sprinting down a hotel corridor. It wouldn't raise eyebrows in a city where excess is the norm. But this wasn't the carefree escape of partygoers sneaking away from a bad decision. This was something else entirely. Back inside room 2432, Brian's body was growing cold. The silence of the room, once filled with conversation, movement, life, was now an eerie void. A single bullet had changed everything. But what happened in those 14 minutes? What was said? Was there an argument? Did Brian realize, too late, what was happening? Did he fight back? Did he beg? Did he even see it coming? We don't know. And maybe we never will. But what we do know is that whatever plan those two women had when they stepped into that room, it didn't end with them simply taking what they wanted and leaving. They left with more than stolen belongings. They left with blood on their hands. It was 11:30 a.m., the time when the routine hum of hotel operations began to pick up. Guests checked out, new ones trickled in, and housekeeping made their rounds, armed with carts filled with fresh linens and tiny bottles of shampoo. For the maid assigned to room 2432, it was supposed to be just another door. She knocked once, then twice. Silence. She called out, "Housekeeping?" Nothing. Rooms in Vegas hotels were often left in disarray. Tangled sheets, discarded clothes, the lingering scent of alcohol or perfume. But there was something different about this one. A heaviness in the air. Pushing the door open, she stepped inside. And then she saw him. At first, it might not have registered. Maybe he had passed out after a long night. Maybe he was simply sleeping off the excesses of Las Vegas. But the moment stretched, and in that awful suffocating stillness, a sickening realization crept over her. Brian Altamirano Solano wasn't asleep. He was on the floor, motionless. His body had begun to cool. His face, once full of life, was frozen in an expression no one could read. A single gunshot wound had left him slumped unnaturally, like a discarded object, one that no one had bothered to move, to cover, or even to check on for 8 long hours. And in that moment, the room wasn't just quiet, it was vacant. The energy, the presence of human warmth, had long since drained away. The maid backed out of the room, her breath caught in her throat, her hands shaking as she fumbled for the radio at her waist. Security was called, then paramedics, then detectives. Within the hour, room 2432 was transformed from a hotel suite into a crime scene. But what stood out was the eerie neatness of it all. There were no signs of a struggle, no overturned furniture, no frantic chaos that typically accompanies a violent death. The room was untouched, as if the moment life left Brian, time itself had stopped with him. Except for one thing. Near his body, nestled into the carpet fibers like it had been waiting to be found, was a single cartridge casing. It was small, easy to miss. But for investigators, it was everything, because that casing would lead them straight to a gun. And that gun, it belonged to Ariana Taylor. It didn't take long for investigators to start unraveling the truth. In Las Vegas, surveillance cameras are as common as the slot machines. Every movement, every interaction, every fleeting moment is recorded, catalogued, stored. And Brian Altamirano Solano's last night was no exception. Detectives began retracing his steps, combing through hours of footage. And there it was, undeniable, irrefutable proof. Erica Covington and Ariana Taylor, hours after Brian's murder, waltzing through another casino as if nothing had happened. No fear, no hesitation. One of them, possibly Erica, wearing Brian's stolen bag like a casual accessory. If there was any remorse, it wasn't visible. The investigation intensified. Social media accounts were examined, phone records were pulled, and the evidence kept piling up. In photos and videos posted online, the two young women could be seen in the same outfits from that night, the ones they wore when they walked into room 2432, when they stood hand in hand with Brian, when they left him behind to die on the hotel room floor. They weren't hiding. They weren't running. They were moving through the city like they had just checked an errand off their list. Like this was just another night in Vegas. Detectives closed in, and within days, they found them. When officers moved in for the arrest, the two women didn't react with shock or denial. There were no dramatic pleas of innocence, no demands for explanations. Instead, they lied. At first, Erica and Ariana claimed they had no memory of that night. Nothing? Not walking into Caesar's palace, not stepping into room 2432, not leaving with a stolen bag, not running out of that hallway at 2:50 a.m., sprinting for the exit like their lives depended on it. It was an insult to the investigators who had watched every second of their movements on video. But detectives didn't need their confession. The evidence was speaking loud enough. When the weight of the proof became impossible to deny, the story changed. Now, they admitted they were in the room. Yes, they had been with Brian. Yes, they had taken his things. But the murder, that wasn't part of the plan. According to them, the intention had only been robbery. A quick, calculated hit, just enough to take what they wanted and leave. But if that were true, then why pull the trigger? If Brian had already been overpowered, if they had already taken his belongings, why shoot him? And the most haunting question of all, who pulled the trigger? Ariana's gun was the weapon used, but was she the one who fired it? Or was it Erica? Neither of them ever answered, and maybe that silence speaks louder than any confession ever could. The day of the trial arrives. The air in the courtroom is heavy, not with the loud wailing of grief, but with something quieter, something far more unbearable. The weight of loss, the finality of it all. Brian's family is there, dressed in the muted tones of mourning, their faces set in stone. His father, Victor, sits in the front row, hands folded tightly together. as if holding on to something that can never be reclaimed. His mother Nellie isn't there, not physically. She is thousands of miles away in Nicaragua, where Brian had been born, where she had raised him, where she had last seen him alive. She is forced to watch this moment through the flickering screen of a video call, a grainy digital window into the courtroom where her son's name is spoken again and again, but never by him. Her voice breaks through the sterile silence of the room. It is raw, trembling, aching. "Why?" she asks. "Why my son?" The words don't feel like questions anymore. More like a plea to a universe that doesn't answer. She is left to sit there, staring at the faces of the two women who took her son's life, searching for something, anything, that might explain it. She finds nothing. Erica Covington, one of the two young women convicted of his murder, stands before the court. Her voice, when she finally speaks, is low, careful. She apologizes. She says she's sorry. But the words feel hollow, like they've been rehearsed.
I deeply, genuinely apologize for the grief and the pain that has been brought upon you guys' family.
Like something she was told to say, because it would look better for her in the long run. Because what exactly is she sorry for? The crime? The fact that she was caught? The life she stole from a man who had already fought so hard to build one? Across the courtroom, Ariana Taylor does not move. She does not speak. She does not shift in her seat. She does not bow her head or shed a tear. She sits there quiet, her expression frozen. Her face does not change when Brian's father speaks. It does not change when his mother cries through a screen. It does not change when the judge reads the sentence that will define the next chapter of her life. She never explains. She never apologizes. And maybe that silence, that utter absence of feeling is the loudest part of this entire case. 10 to 25 years. That was it. That was the price placed on a man's life. A life that had survived political unrest. A life that had crossed borders. A life that had come so far, only to be taken in the span of 14 minutes inside a Las Vegas hotel room. For Erica Covington and Ariana Taylor, it wasn't a life sentence. It wasn't even close. With good behavior, they could be out in just 10 years. 10 years. Less time than Brian even had in this country. Less time than his mother has spent grieving him. Less time than his father will spend wondering what his son's final moments were like. The courtroom sat in an uneasy silence. No dramatic gasps. No protests from the crowd. Just a quiet, stunned acceptance that this was how it ended. But outside the courthouse, the outrage was growing. People questioned how two women could lure a man to his death, walk free before their 35th birthdays, and still call it justice. Some believed they got off too easy, because they were young, because they were women, because the system had always bent its rules for certain people. Others had a darker theory, that Brian, an immigrant from Nicaragua, was never going to get the same justice that an American-born citizen would have received. That if the roles were reversed, if two men had lured a young woman into a hotel room, stolen from her, killed her and run, would the sentence have been the same? Would they have even been offered a plea deal? Would they have seen the outside of a prison cell ever again? It's a question that lingers in every conversation about this case. Because one fact remains. Brian is gone. His parents will never see him again. They will never hear his voice. They will never get an apology that means anything. But Erica Covington and Ariana Taylor, one day they will walk free. Another night in Vegas has come and gone. Another set of tourists flood the streets, stepping over the same pavement Brian Altamirano Solano walked just hours before his life was stolen. The slot machines keep ringing, the drinks keep pouring, and the city moves on as it always does. But this story isn't over. Not for Brian's family, not for the people who still ask the same haunting questions. Why did they kill him? Was it panic? A plan gone wrong? Or was it always meant to end this way? Who pulled the trigger? Ariana Taylor's gun was used. That much is certain. But was she the one who fired it? Or did Erica Covington take that final fatal step? And why in a city that sees everything, a city built on surveillance, a city where cameras watch your every move, is this still a mystery? We have the footage. We have the stolen belongings. We have their own words, their shifting stories, their confessions. But we don't have the truth, not the full truth. And maybe we never will. Because this isn't just another crime story. This is a warning, a cautionary tale about trust, about desperation, about the moment a bad decision turns deadly, in a place where everything is an illusion, where fortunes change with the flip of a card. And for Brian Altamirano Solano, the price was his life. What do you think? Was justice truly served? Should their sentence have been longer? Or was this case a reminder that some people never get the justice they deserve? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want more real stories like this, stories that reveal the truth behind the headlines, hit that subscribe button. Because trust me, Vegas is just one of many places where the truth is stranger than fiction.